On a mild August afternoon in my small rural town, I was swaying back and forth on the rusty tire swing my dad had set up earlier that summer. At the end of the short season, school was creeping around the corner, along with all its drama, excitement, and adventures. I hated school, but not for the usual reasons. I loved learning and receiving homework to expand my knowledge, but for all of my lessons and excellent grades, I couldn't solve this one problem: the art of being social. I had no close friends, never sharing my life at home with anyone, and I felt self conscious about what others thought of me. My whole summer had been spent locked away in my dark bedroom, playing countless games of FIFA and only escaping virtual worlds to eat and drink. By seventh grade, I knew everything about my classmates since I first stepped on the yellow school bus as a kindergarten student, but they didn't know me. I suppose they knew who I pretended to be, but they didn't have the first clue about my life. Would this be the year that I truly showed who I was, or would I retreat back into the shell of my life, putting on a facade once again? The first day of school didn't feel any different than the previous years. I found my red, unpolished locker, and I stuffed my jacket and necessary school supplies into it. Only a few people asked me about my summer or what classes I had been assigned. The cliques were already decided on the very first day. The jocks, the hipsters, and even the nerds had all found their place and where to sit at lunch. I casually ate by myself again, just like any other school year, not wanting to invade certain and different groups or conquer my fear of rejection. I had socially isolated myself again that year, and this was only the first day. I was an outsider. I was different than every one of my peers, and I assumed they would never understand the person I was. I woke up sweaty and anxious. About a month had passed since the dreaded first day of school. I had signed up for something that I never imagined. I was running for student council president. I began to hear the murmurs and whispers around the narrow hallways a few days before the election. Peers that I attended school with since we colored and learned the alphabet wondered who I was and why I was acting so outlandish. Even my teachers did a double take when they saw my name on the list or my scrappy generic poster on the wall. It was bare with few words and pictures. They viewed me as the student in the back of every class who was distant and silent, never even bothering to raise his hand to ask a single question. The day of elections arrived with one important barrier to overcome: a final speech in front of the school convincing my classmates to vote for me. I had never spent so much time on one assignment as I focused heavily on the speech for weeks. I triple checked every sentence, hoping to make it perfect and not embarrass myself in any way. When it came time for me to give my speech, the other candidates had already spoken. They spoke about the most boring diplomatic policies that seventh graders can even imagine, outlining outrageous, complex plans for events that weren't even important, and how they were going to represent our grade throughout the whole middle school. Having the last position made me realize everything about myself and who I wanted to be that day. I did not need the bullshit I had written for that speech. The only way I wanted to win this election was to be myself and say what I actually wanted to say, not with words and sentences that were way too complex for seventh graders. I stood to begin my speech, reading from my organized notebook. After one sentence, the sound of crumbling paper began to fill the completely silent room. Teachers, classmates, and principal looked up in total confusion as I continued to disintegrate all the time and effort that I had spent preparing my speech. I tossed the shredded speech across the room, throwing it completely away like a quarterback without an open receiver. The confused faces didn't last long, though, as they turned to cheers, laughs, and hoots from everyone in my grade. I knew they were cheering due to my act of negligence, but the noise meant nothing to me. Air horns couldn't have topped the level of noise in this room, and it took every teacher and the principal to regain control of the room. Once the dust settled and I had the attention again, I didn't have to say much, if anything at all. I'd already proved my point, at least to myself, with that one simple action. I finally decided to be myself. From that day on, I would not care what others thought about me. I certainly would not return to the shell that I had hidden for my whole life. In the hallway after the speech and election, I talked to everyone in the seventh grade. Their comments were all positive, including, "Lance, what did you just do? I would have voted for you 100 times if I could have. I ran myself, and I even voted for you." In the cafeteria, I bounced around at every lunch table that day, finally telling people about my tough home life, my Jewish ethnicity, and the struggles of being isolated that I went through every day. The people that I once believed would ridicule me were now interested. The votes had been counted by the aggravated teachers when we returned from lunch. I'd received the most votes, and no one else had been close. I wasn't allowed to become president that day because the teachers believed my horrific actions weren't appropriate for someone representing the seventh grade. I couldn't have cared any less. I finally knew who I was. I knew nobody could take my independence away from me. Breaking off my shell that day led to major changes in my life. I joined sports teams in my school, now with the confidence that I was unconcerned with what others thought. In high school, I wasn't scared to be different and be judged by someone older. I became class president a few times, earning the position of a fair and just election. I joined different cultural clubs around the school, determined to meet people who might not fit in the norm at the school. I worked to become a varsity starter in soccer in my last years. My confidence led me to work harder on my abilities, reaping the benefits of my work with not only wins, but lessons in lifelong friendships. I ended up joining the wrestling team, something I had no clue of. This became one of the best decisions of my life because I would get closer with friends that I hope to stay with for life, and to finally learn about how it was to be part of a family that truly cared for you. Many people would assume that winning a state championship was my greatest memory, but I will never forget the hours and days that I spent with some of the most amazing people I've ever met. If I didn't become the person I was meant to be, I wouldn't be writing this paper right now for a class of the greatest college in the world. And it's crazy that it would never have happened if it wasn't for that day all the way back in the 7th grade. I'm still not a complete person, and I'm definitely not perfect. I have my downfalls and negatives about me. A lot of the time, I still make the wrong decision or act incorrectly. The purpose of that day wasn't to show me how to become a person that's perfect or doesn't make any mistakes. It was to explain to me that everyone is different and that we aren't created to judge the personalities, lifestyles, and actions of others. I don't let the opinions of others tear me down or let them tell me who I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be who I want to be, not what society wants me to live up to. I will continue to use my differences to show the world that I have a purpose. I'm determined to live my life the way I want to live it. If I move to the moon, don't try to understand or comprehend my actions. I just know I'll always be the Lance I want desire to be, even if I live with aliens.